Yeah, thank you, James, and afternoon, everyone. Great to follow what a wonderful set of speakers as well. So what I'd like everyone to do to start off before we get into things, I just want you to close your eyes. And even if I can't see, I just want you to close your eyes. And on three, when I count to three, I'm going to pick someone to come off mute or one of the panel to start singing. 1, 2, 3. Don't worry, you can open your eyes. I'm not going to ask anyone to start singing, and hopefully, I don't think anyone left the session, which is good. But what I want to know from you there, just share in the chat, what were some of like the feelings or the emotions going on, like even from the panel as well? What was some of the things going on in your mind when you thought you might have to come off mute and start singing? Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby. Well, yeah, great. What were some of the other feelings? Like some of you might be thinking tight chest, like butterflies, maybe like a million thoughts going on through your head, country roads. I love it. We've got so many like budding karaokers in here. Yeah, shit, no, Italian song. Yeah, so a lot of these kind of feelings, you probably felt quite nervous, butterflies, excitement. Yeah, well, there probably are a lot of people who can sing in here. What's going on there is what's known as this part of our brain that sits in the middle of here, our amygdala hijack. It's like if you imagine it's like our smoke alarm, and it goes off at the sight of any sort of threat or challenge that's outside of our norm. So those that are probably quite excited, that probably wasn't as much of a thing for you. But what happens there is when our amygdala starts going off, it stops like this part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, from operating. And this is where we do all of our decision making from. This is what makes us great at what we do within our role. So when that actually starts hijacking that, we stop thinking straight. It's why you might be like some points of your day, I don't know what came over me there, or I just wasn't myself. And you'll send things or do things or say things that you just think, why did I do that? It's because it wasn't you. So what we're going to go through is this really simple exercise called clearing the space. And there's 3 steps to it. Let's notice it, name it, and neutralize it. And if you've got a pen and a pad, just do this as we go along. And I'll talk you through it as well. And if there's any questions after, please share. So the first one is to notice it. Notice what you notice. It sounds so simple, but often we don't notice we're stressed until we're stressed, or anxious until we're anxious. But the more mindful you can become of some of those triggers that might have come up in that exercise at the start there, the more you can catch yourself and realize actually maybe you're slipping into a stressful or an anxious state. The more you can realize actually maybe I tap my knee a bit more, or I might tap my leg when I'm getting nervous, or when I'm getting stressed, or I've got a tightness in my chest or a lump in my throat. Notice the physical triggers as well as the emotional ones. And then the second step is to name it. So name what you're feeling. And what I'd like you to do, if you've got a bit of paper now, just write down in the middle of it. I'm not going to ask anyone for what they've put down. Just write down the emotion, how you're feeling in this very moment. It could be, I feel stressed, I feel excited, I feel anxious. By naming it, it's known as something called affect labeling. What it means is it stops this amygdala, our smoke alarm, going off and re-engages this part of our brain. It forces it to have to focus. So we've kind of switched off the amygdala initially. By doing that, we've then got the statement here. We can look at it in more of a logical way. It's often why you might feel in your personal life you're so good at giving advice to other people, but you can never take your own, is often because you're so emotionally wrapped up in it. So we've got our name it. Now what I'd like you to do to neutralize it is draw 2 or 3 lines off of your statement and just write down what are 2 or 3 of the biggest things that are causing you to feel like that right now. If you've written down, I feel stressed, write down 2 or 3 reasons. Why do you feel stressed? What's going on to make you feel like that? They could be something as big as working from home, lockdown. It could be something as small as an email you've got today, or a conversation you've got coming up. And then what I'd like you to do off each of those is just ask yourself, is this controllable? Like, can I do something about this personally? Yes or no, next to each one of those. If it's lockdown, of course you can't. You can't control that. And then of the ones you have put yes next to, I want you to ask yourself and write down, what's one thing you could do or are doing to overcome this? What's one thing you can do or are doing to overcome this? Because there might be things you've started already that might not have got you there. So what you've got here is you've got your statement of how you feel right now. You've got your 2 or 3 reasons why you feel like that. You've asked yourself off each one, is this controllable? And of the ones that is controllable, you're asking yourself, what's one thing I can do or am doing to overcome here? What you're doing here is building this mind map for yourself, this reassurance to every time your smoke alarm starts going off, to reassure it. What happens when a smoke alarm goes off in the house after getting over the annoying noise? We go in and we switch it off. We don't go in the kitchen and go, oh my God, the house is going to burn down and run around. But that's often what we do on our daily basis when our amygdala, our smoke alarm, starts going off. We become immersed by it. We let it dictate our day. We just think, oh, it's going to be a stressful day. And then we just think, I can't wait to get to the end of the day or the end of the week. By looking at this, you can understand how you feel. By reflecting on why you're feeling like that, it might feel like in your mind 5 or 10 things when it's 1 or 2 things. By asking yourself, is it controllable? You can remind yourself that we spend so much time and energy on things that we can't control, that we sometimes convince ourselves that we can, which makes it even more frustrating. And just reminding yourself that you can't can be a powerful thing to do. And then by asking yourself, what am I doing, or what could I do to overcome this? You're not just dwelling on the situation, and you're moving forwards. You're asking yourself questions, not making statements. You know, our minds are a bit like a Google search engine. Anything we type in, they're going to come back with an answer. So you're typing in statements into your mind, your brain is going to look for evidence. You're telling yourself, I'm not going to do well today, not going to hit my number this month, I'm not going to be able to get through to this prospect. It's going to go and look for all the evidence to back it up because it doesn't want to prove you wrong. But if you ask your brain questions, it's going to come back with solutions. How could I hit my number this month? How could I get hold of this person? And that whole exercise there is designed to ask you questions, to get you forward thinking rather than dwelling in the moment. And what you're doing there as well, by paying attention to your thoughts and your triggers, is you're removing yourself from the situation that's caused that. And there's something that, if you want to give it a Google to find out a bit more, called the 90-second emotional window, which is where if we remove ourselves from that stressful situation, our bodies are actually designed within 90 seconds to bring us back to a neutral state. It's often that we live it on within our minds. We tell everyone else about it. We tell ourselves that we're in a stressful state, that it lives on further. So just remind yourself of that. Try that exercise out again tonight if you want to be more present in the evening with your family, or in the morning, or before a big call, at the end of a big call. And just work out, like if you're starting to feel some of these triggers in a meeting, do it immediately after that meeting and work out what were some of the things that made me feel like that. What am I feeling right now? If it's anxiety, how can I work on that? So notice it, name it, and neutralize it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Looking forward to the panel. I think, Alex, are you coming back on? But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, send them over to me. And also, I run a podcast, Not Another Sales Podcast, with this exercise on there. So I'll drop that in the chat if anyone wants to listen to that in a bit more detail. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll look forward to meeting some of you in the networking event.